Welcome to the Shift & Co podcast, your beacon of empowerment and transformation. Here, wisdom converges with actionable steps, where universal principles of abundance, wellness, and happiness come alive. Introducing Laura Brennan-Belay, the dynamo behind the science of empowerment, here to supercharge your journey with her expertise in neuroenergy. And alongside her is Stefan Hoffman, melding corporate acumen with deep esoteric wisdom. He's poised to amplify your inner voice, transforming whispers into declarations. Together, they promise to captivate, elevate, and fundamentally shift your perspective. Now, here are your hosts, Laura and Stefan.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where everyone is in the world today. And welcome to our new episode of The Shift & Co. with my always beautiful, always calming Laura Brennan-Belay. How are you today, Laura?
Hello, my beautiful friend. I'm smiling because we've been deep in conversation, of course, before recording, and we just said, let's put the cameras on and roll because this is an important discussion to have because so many of us are going through angst, anger, frustration, barely catching our breath. So I'm excited for this podcast. I think it will be very helpful for many of the listeners.
It's so interesting because we actually planned to do a different topic for today. We were going to be talking about how environment can affect your alignment, because I specifically am going through the process of moving house, towns, all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. So quite a big move coming up again. But then instead, we decided to shift in terms of what we're going to discuss today, because I'm going through something very specific that I'm working to recalibrate. And then Laura and myself said, why don't we actually go in a heightened emotional state and recalibrate in real time so that our audience can see how this all operates.
Yeah.
So I'll give a very brief rundown as to what I'm currently going through in very broad strokes, because I think if I get into the nitty-gritty, I may lose my composure. And then we'll get into the actual topic of recognizing your limitations in regards to your mental bandwidth, which is such an important discussion to I think have. Because as I mentioned, I'm going through a whole entire move right now that I'm going to have to do in literally a week's time. Laura, you froze. Are you okay?
Nope,
Are you back?
I'm good. Yep, I'm here.
Yes, I'm going through a move within the next week and realize I've got to pack up my entire house. I've barely even started. And there's a lot of new things that are coming into play in my work that needs to be rolled out. And then in my side hustle, my business, there's a lot of stuff that has just not been gaining traction. And even for the Shift & Co., there's a lot of big, I would say rather audacious goals that we put in place for ourselves. And again, I'm just not seeing that traction and seeing that forward momentum. And kind of reached the point where about an hour ago, I just went, right, that's it. I think I just need a week off. I just need time to decompress, focus on what's important, and then hit the ground running again, moving forward.
And we know how important that is. So, we lose sight of it, and many of us really are not aligned with the skill set to recognize, I need to step back. I really do. We talk about it, right? Many of us, whether we're being coached or we're coaching, we have mentors, we listen to podcasts, we read books, we journal, we met all of what we fill our days with to try to stay ahead of this. But the reality is there is a frequency and a vibration happening on the planet around our world that really does have effect on us. And then we bring this into our own personal environment. And we start to realize, I think, the more conscious we become, the more aware we become of our own internal empowerment, the more magnified the unalignment appears. And this is where that emotionality really gets charged. And then we feel it in our body, or we feel it in the way that we're thinking. We connect to the realization of what isn't going smoothly, right? Because we feel the bumps in the road so much more. But again, here we go. We're going to remember that through that skill of recalibration, those bumps are in place to redirect, refocus, and really start to think about what is truly important in the day-to-day breakdown. Where are my goals and my dreams? And how can I shift into a thought process that will help align, right, the physiology and the chemistry and the calmness of what I need to really present myself to these ideas in my very best self way.
So for our audience, because again, this is very much a real-time demonstration as to how this all works. You'll notice just from my body language that I've gone from highly charged emotional state, we call that negative, to being a lot calmer, just literally listening to Laura as she's explaining how life can start to get the better of us, and that would be a more neutral state. And then as I approach that neutral state, I can feel my mind going, I have more space.
Yeah.
I have more ability to be, which is so important. And, you said something in that around just the world around us. There is a lot of stuff in and around the air, right? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because one of the things that I often will say to people is the universe is infinite. The divine is infinite. God is infinite. We, in our mortal aspect, in this physicality, are not infinite, right? And I remember my father, who's a deeply spiritual man, he always used to ask this question as kind of a trying to catch people out, but also to get them to think. And he would say, "Is God humble?" And people would always go, "Well, yes, of course he is." And you go, "Well, no, he's not. How can God be humble? How can the divine that is infinite in power, infinite in wisdom, infinite in knowledge, be humble?" Because humility indicates that you recognize your limitations, right? So therefore the divine is not humble, but we as humans in this physicality have to have a certain level of humility, because whilst we are capable of far more than we could possibly imagine, we do still have limitations. And one of the flip sides to the coin of having an infinite universe is it's an infinite universe, right? Yeah. So one of the things that I used to complain about in my younger days is I'd say, why is it that when it doesn't rain, but it pours, right? And the same thing for blessings. Yeah. So you're looking for a job and you can't find anything for 3 months, 6 months, a year. And the next thing, you get 10 job offers coming out of nowhere and you can't pick one, right? Because there's just too many. And it's that sort of situation where we have so much opportunity, so much choice around us, but equally we have a lot of information around us, all of which exists, but through the lens of perception can become negative or positive. So you and I were discussing beforehand, people have a lot on their minds just because of what's happening globally. There's the credit crisis, right? The cost of living crisis. Right. How am I going to put food on my table next week? Then the next thing, it's, COVID and disease. And then it's war in Ukraine. Then it's war in Israel. All of these things add to a constant level of stress. And it's up to us to use our mental abilities and our mental acuity to go, I'm going to hone in on what is important. So again, we're not burying our head in the sand. We're not pretending that XYZ is not happening. We're certainly not pretending that there aren't varied opportunities available to us, but we are saying, what is my end goal and how can I stay aligned to that?
And understanding that we're energy beings, and even if we aren't aware that what's happening across the oceans are affecting us. They are. It's like a volcano. When a volcano erupts, those ashes can spread through continents, right? They really can. It isn't just it erupts and then, within 200 miles it settles. There is oh, there's a resin to that eruption, and it moves through the entire atmosphere of the globe. Now, if we look at this from an emotional or mental, spiritual position, now we can say, well, how is what's happening somewhere else really affecting me? But it is. Even if we're not saturating ourselves with negative news stories, or we're not talking about it every day in our jobs, or when we go to the gym, we're, not working out and talking about the tragedies of someone else's experience. But in our mind, we know that there is suffering and there is history that continues to repeat itself. We know that there's big chunks of the human condition that are not evolving, they're not advancing. And all of this does have an energetic play into the environment. And when it comes to our personal environment, and that, like, as you said, that mental acuity and how we let it expand and contract and what happens in that process, that's where that emotionality kicks up, and the anger, the frustration, the disappointment, just all of what we're feeling. And then you add on personal, right, challenges. I have to move, I have to work, I'm building a business, I need to take care of my nutrition, my body, my mental state. Oh my God, I can't fit in meditation. I can't even get a walk in. All of this stuff starts to accumulate. So again, this at the Science of Empowerment. This is where we've trained ourselves to become aware at those indicators, right? Those markers. They're starting to kick in and they're revving up. That is the first cue. All right, hold up. Cup of tea, shut the phone off, no TV, read a book, take a walk, go to the gym, call a friend, reschedule the heaviness next week of my calendar. Take a moment and recognize this is where we honor what our future self is kicking back to us. You won't get here. I won't be able to come out for you if you do not honor where you are in this moment. So looking ahead, but honoring where we are, and what is that gap that we need to fill so that we don't carry this negativity and this disruption with us, not only through the experience, but to that future self that we are trying to get to. So when we are awakening to anger, sadness, frustration, fear, disappointment, all of that, this is the time, and I know, but this is where the practice comes in of self-evolution. Hold steady. I will get through this because I always get through this. It may not be the most beautiful of unfolding, but the challenge is being presented so that I can actually go to that next level. And if we think about the levels that we've already moved through, whether it's we're eating better, we're exercising better, we're making a little more money, we are gathering more wisdom, we have acquired a new skill set, we have what it takes within to move through a present challenge. And that is a reminder to everyone listening. How we choose to move through that is what the challenge is presenting at any given moment.
So again, as always, it just comes back to choice, right? It comes back to choice and self-awareness.
Always.
You are always in the power seat of choice.
Always.
So even as I'm listening to everything that Laura is saying there, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what am I allowing? Because that's the thing, right? It is a choice.
Yeah.
What am I allowing to overwhelm me? Because it doesn't have to. I can choose to allow some things to move past me. I can choose to not accept certain things into my space at all. And I can certainly choose to focus on what is going to move me forward to my end goal the fastest. Right?
And all the things that you have in place that, oh my gosh, just align with the gratitude,
Right.
love, friendships, health, this incredible move. There's some really beautiful, empowering aspects of all what you have built that are coming to fruition. We've talked about this even in full transparency. Years ago, when we started talking, one of our goals that we wanted to share together was to meet. And I was calling this retreat an island. It's not really an island, but the feel of the island. I even put something out and I was like, come to the island of Costa Rica. And Bruce and I were laughing. I'm like, but it's tropical and there's trees
It
and
is.
it is an island mentality. And my husband
Yes.
recognized that that's where my head went. So my point is, there was a time when we thought about it and it was far away for us. And now, I
It's
don't know,
happening.
6 months from now, we're
Yeah.
going. We're going and we are living out that thought, that attraction, that manifestation. Just like today, the points of concern at the moment, in this given moment of just this one day, and all of what's coming out of you, those will naturally dissolve because you have honed in on your awareness to what is working and what isn't. You are willing to take a moment, step back, and give yourself a break so that you can reconfigure all of this thought process. I have to let that person go. I have to focus more on what I really love, get ready for this incredible move that's going to expand so much creativity and success. Now, your accountability. I am in the power seat of choice of how I look at all of this. Critical thinking. Once that emotional charge starts to just release, now we get to think with a thought process that realigns us to really what matters. Energy. You've neutralized that emotionality through the skill of critical thinking. Now you're actually starting to see the positive, what I have
Mhm.
built, what I have accomplished, where I am aligned. I have manifested an island style retreat with one of my besties, creating more empowerment for our listening audience through the Shift and Co. Boom. Look at that in 2 minutes.
Exactly that. It's just, it always does come back to the gratitude and being able to see that absolutely everything is in a state of polarity. So whenever things are looking really rough and really bad and negative, and think of all the adjectives that you can inject there always has to be a positive sign. The universe just works that way. It's a universal fundamental principle.
Always.
So whenever things are, I mean, we always have that saying, things are always darkest before the dawn. It's because on the one side of the planet it is dark, yes, but on the other side of the planet it's full light, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that constant shift and play that happens energetically happens in every aspect of our lives.
And
So
it's
whenever,
happening internally.
yeah,
Internally. Yeah.
as above, so below, as within, so without,
Yeah.
right? That principle holds true. But coming back to the topic for this podcast about our mental bandwidth, right? When things do feel overwhelming, and those times do happen, right? As happened to me today, where I started to feel massively overwhelmed, started to feel frustrated, anger started to come into it as well. And I'm going, right, where is all of this going? Being able to stop for just a moment, okay, slightly longer than a moment. It's probably going to take me about an hour in total. But to stop for a moment, look at everything and go, right, what is causing me the most dis-ease in my brain? This. Okay. And look at it from a purely logical, purely objective point of view. So try not to bring emotion into it. Just look at the situation as it is, not how we perceive it to be.
Yeah.
A little bit of stoicism thrown in there. Look at it from that perspective and then say to yourself, is the emotionality that I've attached to the situation valid? Yes or no? If it is valid, why did that emotionality come up in the first place?
Right.
If it's because there is something that is not working, then it's obvious that certain questions need to be asked. What can I do to fix that? Is this something I want to fix?
Right.
Is this something that I maybe do not want to fix, but that I should fix because it aligns with my end goal?
Mm-hmm.
Starting to get that granular and that objective about the outcome helps us to really stay focused on where we're wanting to get to, and helps to alleviate quite a lot of the emotional trauma that we tend to inflict on ourselves, right? Because I'm flashing back to my morning so far, or my afternoon already, and it's been a lot of, oh, I can't believe that happened. Oh, can't believe that happened. And, oh, I'm just gonna go do dishes now because that's gonna help me calm down. Right?
And we know what that momentum is like, right? There's a story. You get up, you stub your toe, that's it. The whole day is just shot. And this is, so I'm thinking of so many things. So I remember once I was working with this very cool mentor and thinking along these lines. Let's just say, again, everything is seeping out of that bandwidth. You can just feel it, the boundaries, the framework, the power pillars that usually hold that structure of thought in place. They feel like they're starting to maybe get a little shaky, right? A couple bolts are popping out of the bottom. However you want to look at it, they're starting to crumble. Pen and paper, old school, best way to do it. Write down top 3 aggravation thought processes around it, whatever it may be. Top 3 things that are aggravating me, pissing me off, upsetting, causing me angst, putting me in a state of fear, disappointment, whatever it may be. Top 3 things, and then one word that describes each one of those. Out of those 3, pick the top one, and you'll know it. You'll see it.
Oh, yeah.
Right away. You know, fear, insecurity, disappointment, sad, angry, not happy. Okay, whatever comes out of your mind, pick one and take whatever feels right for you, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, and look at it from the perspective with gratitude. This is just such an amazing recalibration skill right here.
It really is.
Look at it from the mindset of gratitude. You will see the lesson so crystal clear on what it is that is presenting itself. Now, I am not saying all of this is without challenge. I am not saying that you can move through this in a moment, which, side note, yes, you can, but it takes practice. You have to learn what this feels like to recalibrate emotionality through to critical thinking so that you understand the lesson, the gratitude, and then the action. It is not complicated. It's just a new study. It's new information. It's a new classroom. It's new techniques and applications. I can almost promise you, if you look at one thing, and you can do this one at a time, you will start to calm the sensory system down. The nervous system will slow down. The mind will start to see that there are options. They may not all be perfect. They may all not be aligned with the absolute big dream and goal, but you will begin to see that you have the power to rethink the thought process, to calm the thought down enough so that you're not in that flight or fight anymore, that you're starting to exercise your autonomy into an elevated state through gratitude, through
Mm.
awareness, through willingness, through accountability, through critical thinking, and through the ultimate power seat of choice. Which energy am I? And through that process that can take 5 minutes, you start to understand that it is I alone that will continue to keep me in an agitated state, or I alone that can start to calm it all down, use my mind to begin to create the next pathway out of this habit of behavior, of the story, the perception, and the thought process that I've got no way out. Just anger, just frustration. No, you have so many doorways that are just awaiting your eyesight on them.
Yep.
So again, it could be journal, meditation, calling a friend, and it can be a paragraph in a book, a power quote that you put on your mirror. It can be pulling into something that you've recognized from before. So there's so many beautiful ways to move through that onset of, oh my God, like you said, boom, 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 to hold up. I do have wisdom and insight and information and skills that can help me have a more productive mindset around the needed shift so that I can continue to elevate my pathway towards that goal, towards that dream.
Absolutely, absolutely, and beautifully said. And well, I shouldn't say interestingly enough, because it's always so aligned with us. And as our audience will know, we always do a tarot reading towards the end of our episode in regards to just the energy around what we've been discussing. And exactly what Laura said there is what came out in the tarot reading today.
Mm.
It basically said that yes, we all have a lot going on, right? So there's the 10 of staves, there's the picture of a man basically trying to carry these 10 long poles, and they're threatening to fall out his arms, but he's doing his best to get them up the hill. And you're just kind of recognizing that we all have a lot going on, right? That's never going to change. So you're not going to suddenly have only one thing to do. Life would be incredibly boring if we did, right? It's nice to have a variety. It's a beautiful gift that the universe gives us. However, the advice card is so poignant and so beautiful. And it's exactly what you just said, Laura, because it's saying when things become too much, when it feels like you're overwhelmed, like you just want to kind of give up, right? It's saying to stop and take stock. Look at what you've already created. Look at what you've already learned. Look at what skill sets you have managed to put together for yourself. And take a moment to just be grateful for that. It doesn't need to be a huge celebration, but to just take a moment to sit back and go, I did that.
Yeah.
I managed to create XYZ. That's kind of an amazing thing. All right. And not look at it as but actually, so just by the way, the image is the Three of Pentacles. And what I find so great about it is this particular image is clearly a portion of a church, right? But it's one little pillar of this entire obvious must be a monstrosity, right? And the three people are stopping to just look at this one pillar. And that's such an interesting thing, because whilst, yes, we have these big, hairy, audacious goals that we're wanting to achieve, you don't get there by building it in a day, right? A cathedral is not built in one day. It takes time, one pillar at a time. So to stop and look at each step that we've taken and admire the work we've done and be grateful for it allows us to stay the course and get to where we're going in the end.
So beautifully aligned. And again, what I love about the esoteric wisdom that you bring in to the Shift and Co, and then the new sciences and the neuroenergy way of thinking about how mind, body, and consciousness are so connected. This really shows the power of alignment. Even
Mm,
when we are going through the human condition, there is always this beautiful force of connectivity that is at play. It's where do we choose? How do we choose to tap into its messaging, to remind us that it will all be okay? Somehow, through individual triumphs and tragedies and challenges and masteries, there's always a point of light, right, to shine in those shadows. And it's
absolutely.
just a reminder when things are feeling a bit kind of that upheaval energy, if we choose to look at it from the perspective of an opportunity to, old school here analogy, till the soil, replant a new seed, let nature take care of itself, and do the very best we can to always move in the direction of self evolution.
Mm,
Now we get to have purpose to the challenge. It no longer has to become this emotional anchor and drag us down. It can actually, again, be an indicator, a marker, a shift into the next layer, the next rich layer of mastery through that challenge. And I'm watching a documentary on Mount Saint Michel, the cathedral that in France that is in the middle of the ocean, the workmanship, the craftsmanship, 60, 70 some odd years of individual and some 2 generations to build.
mm.
So when you talk about the pillars, and as I was saying, we may feel that the structure is crumbling, but no, we all have that structure within. Sometimes, yeah, there's an
Absolutely.
earthquake. Sometimes the ground shakes, but we have what it takes. So, of course, after the reading, we go into the power quote, and I pull into it long before we connect.
Mm,
And I love this because the power quote today around this mental bandwidth, right? Here it goes. Power shines through for those who dare to carry the message of individualized evolution. So I want you to think about this. When you choose to look at any given challenge, negative environment, situation that's creating all these emotions, if you carry that internal message that your individualized evolution is at play, now you can begin to live an empowered life. It is not being presented to bring you down, it is in place to rise you up to that next shift.
that's exactly it. That is exactly it. And what a beautiful way to end off.
That's it.
To our audience, thank you again, as always, for sharing this time with us. We really do appreciate it. As always, the link to purchase Laura's book is in the description below. The Science of Empowerment is available on Amazon. Please do be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Okay, so we want all of our listeners to really get the message out to as many people as possible, so we can shine a light out there, because we really are going through, I won't say unheard of times, because we've said that enough over the last decade,
Mm.
but life does carry on, and there is definitely space for us to lighten our load and lighten our own lives as well.
And just
So,
remember, I just want to say, just
yeah,
remember to everyone listening, when you share information, you really never know who needs to hear it. So this is why it's so important that when we ask to like and subscribe and share, because we all need to work on getting all of this information and knowledge, gratitude and inspiration out. And we can only do that when we do that together.
absolutely. Until next time, we've been Laura and Stefan. Hope to see you again soon. Bye now.
Another enlightening journey concludes here at the Shift & Co. podcast. If this episode resonated, share the wisdom, subscribe for more transformative tales, and continue this voyage of growth with us. Until our paths cross again, keep shifting, stay curious, and embrace the continual evolution of self.